Welcome to Christopers Cucina. It's a pleasure having you in my kitchen today. During this episode, we're going to make a couple of very simple desserts, user-friendly desserts that you can make at home, and just good tasting, good old-fashioned desserts. I'm going to start with the tiramisu. I'm going to make a tiramisu and a Zabayon sauce out of egg yolks, marsala. It's a warm egg sauce to go over berries, as well as a tiramisu. The tiramisu I'm going to make more in an individual style here. You can take this exact same method and make it for, a larger pan, or you can simply make it for individual dishes, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Tiramisu is a classic dish made from lady fingers. It's a very, very light sponge cake here. Sometimes you find them in the dried form, in which case you need to soak them for a little bit longer. In this case, because it's a fresh lady finger, we just need to soak them ever so slightly. And what are we soaking it in? Well, we have some espresso, some Kahlua, a little bit of coffee, and some sugar in here. In the event you wanted to serve this to children, you could use decaf coffee and omit the Kahlua, and this dessert would be perfectly suitable for children as well. So what I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to start with the mascarpone filling, okay? I have some mascarpone cheese here. It's technically like a triple cream, meaning that it's not a true cheese in the sense of the word. It's called that, but it's more of a triple cream. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some whipped cream and mix it with the mascarpone to lighten that up. Also going to use some of that whipped cream at the end for garnish, as well as a little bit of granulated sugar. This is going to be the layer between the lady fingers in the tiramisu. So I'm simply going to mix. I have some room temperature mascarpone, the cream, and the sugar. And I'm simply going to mix that together. The other thing that I'm going to add is just a pinch of salt. What the salt does is it accentuates the flavor here. The salt will just wake up some of the cheese and the cream and the sugar that's in there. So now that this mixture's come together, simply folding that together, and that's going to be part of the filling that's going to go in between the lady fingers that are soaked. So now I'm going to soak the lady fingers. I don't need to prep anything in this dish before I line it with the lady fingers. You don't need to add anything to it, just simply the lady fingers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to soak both sides, and I'm going to stand them up around the outside. Let it absorb. Stand it up around the outside. I do keep the lady fingers together in this case so they don't over soak and get mushy. The lady fingers are split in the middle. So again, soaking the lady fingers, rolling them around in the Kahlua, the espresso, and the coffee mixture. Lining the inside of our bowl or any vessel that you're going to serve this in. Again, the size of the vessel makes no difference. It's more about, you can take the same exact method and put it in a 13 by 9 pan. You could do them in a trifle pan, a glass pan, all those things will work just fine. So I'm going to take one more round of lady fingers, and I'm going to line the center of that cup. At that point, I'm going to take some of this mascarpone cream that's been sweetened with a little bit of sugar and some whipped cream to just soften it. And that's going to go down in the center. And I'm going to push that down and kind of fill in any of the gaps with this. At this point, this dish is really starting to come together nicely. All we need to do to finish this is to take a little bit more of the whipped cream, put it right in the center. I'm going to take a little bit more of the coffee mixture, run it around those lady fingers, let that soak down a little bit in between some of these gaps here. And then to finish this dish, I'm going to take a little bit of cocoa powder, put it in a mesh strainer here, and simply just shake it right over the top. And that will be your finishing touch on the tiramisu here. Clean up the side of your bowl here. And this dish actually does not need a mint garnish. It's literally that simple. When we come back from the break, I'm going to put together the berry Zabayon, make the Zabayon sauce, plate up the berries, and we'll finish that. See you shortly. And we are back. So now on to the second dessert in this episode, which is going to be a warm sauce. It's called a Zabayon sauce. What it is some raw egg yolks, some Marsala wine, and some sugar. I'm going to cook that and whisk it together over a double boiler. What does that mean? Well, I have a little bit of water in the bottom of this pan, and I have a metal bowl that outfits on top of that pan that sits in there. The water is not even close to touching the bottom of that pan, and that's exactly what you're looking for. We're looking to whisk this and create some air into this dish. So we'll take the egg yolks, put them directly into the bottom of this dish with a couple tablespoons of Marsala wine and a couple pinches of sugar. We may come back and add a little bit more sugar to that. We don't want this overly sweet. What we do want to do is we want to realize how sweet our berries may be or may not be. In the event of the berries not being too sweet, you would add a little bit more sugar to this because you do want to have some sweetness to this dish. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continually whisk this. The heat's over medium heat. Matter of fact, I can turn it up just a touch here. We don't want it boiling. And what we're doing is we're incorporating air. So by using this whisk and whisking this mixture back and forth the whole time, we're incorporating air as these egg yolks cook. That's exactly what we want to do. The other thing we want to do is add just a pinch of salt to that. Salt is a good addition into desserts. Oftentimes desserts can be too sweet, and we talk about balance and seasoning, and salt acts as a balancing. It balances out all the sweetness that can be in dessert. So don't be afraid to use salt in dessert. Nothing should taste salty rather than, again, a balance. So we're looking for this mixture to cook and get a pale yellow. I oftentimes will want to check and see how hot and what the water is doing underneath. You can't see unless you have a glass bowl. If you can do this in a glass bowl, you'll be able to see what's going on underneath. But I have a metal bowl here, which I prefer because the metal is going to actually conduct the heat a little bit better than a glass bowl will. So I'm constantly moving this. What I don't want to do at this point is walk away and not stir this. We don't want to scramble those egg yolks. In the event that there's too much heat coming up through the bottom of that bowl and you're not whisking, those egg yolks are going to start to form little scrambles, and that's not what you're looking for. You can control that by removing the bowl from the heat, testing the bottom how hot your bowl is, and putting it back. If you think your bowl's getting too hot, you simply remove it, check the water temperature underneath, and you'll make your adjustment from there. You may use a towel in the event the bowl starts to get too hot. Don't be afraid to use a towel on this. And we're continuing to whisk and continuing to whisk. This is going to cook for about 5 minutes while we're continually whisking. I'm constantly reminding myself to scrape down the sides of the bowl. It's going to get hotter around the tops of the bowl. If you don't manage that, you're going to get some cooked egg around the side of the bowl. Should that happen to you, don't stop and throw it out. Simply just don't scrape that and just let it accumulate. And I wouldn't scrape it at that point. Now that my bowl is starting to get a little bit hot and my water's hot, I can turn my water down, and I'm going to continue to whisk off the heat because that bowl is still staying nice and warm here. Now you go back onto the heat and you continue to whisk. This is a very light sauce. Even though it's egg yolks and a little bit of sugar, it's not considered a heavy sauce. And this sauce is just about ready. How do you know when it's done? Well, you're seeing it starting to thicken up like this. It's going to start to ribbon a little bit, and we're really close to this finishing up. So I'm going to continue to whisk this during the break. When I come back, we're going to finish this up, plate this dish, and bring it all together. And we're back. So now that our Zabayon sauce has cooked, you can see it's got a nice consistency to it. It's not too thin, it's not too thick. Now it's time to plate. We take our berries in any particular order. These berries are the ones that looked great in the store. If something's not great or something's not sweet, please don't use it. Only use what you like and make sure that it's of good quality. The actual type of berry makes far less difference. I happen to have blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries in this case. The strawberries that I was looking at just wasn't doing it for me, so I decided to keep it out. So I'm going to take a mix of these berries, put them in a dish, just like so. Take some of our Zabayon sauce. This sauce shouldn't be cold, yet it shouldn't be hot. It should be kind of somewhere right in between. I'm going to take and drape some of the It'll just grab onto those berries, like so, as little or as few as you'd like. And then to finish this, a little bit of a mint garnish just works really well in this case. Mint tends to be overused as a garnish, but in this case, a nice beautiful sprig of mint, and there you have it. Warm Zabayon sauce over mixed berries, tiramisu. Two simple, light desserts, very easy to do at home, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Christopers Cucina. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and you may follow me on Instagram at Christopers Cucina.